Well, we knew it was going to happen. Doesn't make it feel any better, but we are now seeing more effects of the government shutdown. So, as far as the government shutdown goes, Vince,
Still happening today.
yeah, still taking place.
38 days.
Now we are seeing more flights canceled and more flights delayed across the air system for air travelers because they're trying to cut back on some of this stuff. They want to have less flights in the air because air traffic controllers who are working for free at the moment, they're not getting paid, are getting burned out. We've had issues with TSA as well. So now, starting this morning, flight reductions at 40 major airports are taking effect. The FAA ordering airlines to reduce flights at so-called high-impact airports by 4% this morning. They will gradually increase to 10% of flights by next Friday. So in a week, they want to move all the way up to 10% flights drawn back now because of the government shutdown.
And that is, as far as Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport is concerned, not looking like it's affecting things dramatically, but the ripple effects of, okay, well, that's some other airport. Okay, well, if your plane is coming from that airport and it's canceled or delayed, right, that can ripple across the entire country.
Meanwhile, for travelers,
I'm not worried about getting to Florida, but I might be concerned in 10 days about getting home.
yeah, which would be a concern, whether or not you're even going to make it back after you get to wherever you were going.
Well, that resonates with our guest this morning. 11 minutes after 9 on Wisconsin's Morning News. We're joined now by a guy we talk to from time to time about aviation issues. He is a local pilot for a major airline, and we just call him Captain Scott. Captain, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Vince. Good morning, Eric. Great to be back with you guys.
Heard you got in late last night. Was that because of all of this?
I tell you, it was a little bit of weather down in O'Hare too. It started with a weather ground stop for a little bit, and then it continued into an air traffic control delay, and we were inevitably about 6 hours late. I think I landed at Chicago O'Hare at about 2:30 in the morning and got out to Milwaukee at about 4 a.m. So it was a long night last night.
So do you tell all your passengers do you use government shutdown like, hey, FYI, this is happening, this is going on, this is why we're not moving at the moment? Do you have to go into that?
Yeah, well, I think all the crew members in general, right, we believe in transparency as much as we can. We want to make sure that you sitting in the back of the aircraft, there's nothing more frustrating than when you're delayed and you don't have an answer. So we're looking at trying to honestly figure out what that answer is. And the airline will do a good job of coding what that delay is. Hey, this is an air traffic control, system delay due to too much traffic, and they're not going to put in the FAA mandated, shutdown or anything like that. But they're going to give us enough information that we can properly let you guys know. But there is no question about it. It was in play last night.
Captain Scott joins us. He's a local pilot for a major airline, and he's on Wisconsin's Morning News. From your seat there, Captain, is it better what we're doing right now, the FAA reducing these flights, preemptively telling the airlines to not schedule as many flights or take them out of the skies, as opposed to, I don't know, can't we just come and see what happens?
Right. That's a great question, Vince. I think, my job, I listened to something on Fox News the other day, and it was with respect to the Allied Pilots Association union captain, representative of the entire union. And his quote was, my job is to keep politics out of the flight deck. And I just thought that was brilliant, right, from a sound piece, but also from the heart, because that really is what our job is. Our job is to keep the flight deck safe under all costs and to mitigate risk as much as we can. And so having said that, that's how I try to operate. That's how all the men and women, try to operate on the flight deck. Specific to your point, there's no question about it. The last thing we want from a safety perspective is limited amounts of controllers or controllers that are overwhelmed, or, we operate at what's called under a threat air management system. There's no question about it. Threats increase when people have personal issues going on in their lives, or they have distractions that are occurring in their lives. So from that standpoint, I think it's great, that we scale back a little bit. Obviously, that doesn't appease what our mission is, which is to deliver travel to as many people as we can. But under number one, under all circumstances, safety has to be the number one. And I do believe, that the men and women that are operating the flight decks out there and quite frankly behind the radar screens and doing the controlling have just been so professional, and they're mitigating, the threat air management system properly, and we're keeping everybody safe.
How difficult is it to pull back by 10%? Because you would assume that planes always have a place to be, and then there's the next schedule, then there's the next schedule. Same with the crew. How easy is this to create this puzzle that needs to be solved in a matter of a week?
Now, my friend Eric, you're getting yourself into airline
logistics.
There.
Eric, Captain, I should mention, Eric just somehow came back from the Caribbean yesterday, which got hit by a hurricane recently, and then on top of all the flight stuff, got a flight out of Miami and was able to get back to us here on schedule, or a little bit delayed, but I thought there was no chance dude was making it back today.
Miami was pretty intense yesterday, Scott. That was, and then Chicago, which looked really nice for Christmas when we landed last night, was a little bit more calm, but it took us a while to finally get there.
Yeah, I'm happy you had an awesome time down in the Caribbean. I love going down there too, and we were pretty close to each other because I was up in Fort Lauderdale. It's the ability of an airline to put back the pieces of the puzzle when you take the pieces out of the puzzle really is brilliant, and that is above my pay grade. I know people in. And wow, the ability to strategize, the ability to isolate variables, things of that nature. Some airlines do it better than other airlines. Some airlines are still learning that process. Some airlines that have been really good at that process. Once you start to scatter crews, scatter airplanes all around, that's when issues start to happen. Now, I do know, and I can say for a fact that our airline had been monitoring this. There was some pretty good visibility for our airline and other airlines as to what was going to happen. So they had the reserves in place. They had the aircrafts in place. So I think minimize the amount of the disruption and the chaos. However, if it continues to go on further, obviously that disruption is going to be E to the X.
I was surprised at how I should have said something to him, and I didn't just because I was on vacation. But I did see a number of, I believe to be pilots or at least airline workers sitting in the cabin with us. Like I saw at least 4 last night from Miami to Chicago, just scattered about, which caught me off guard because I figured there must be a reason for that they got to, hey, we need to move these people here to there to get them ready for the next flight.
Yeah, so great observation, Eric. I mean, 2 things are going on. One, we're flying during a lower capacity period in general prior to this, right? We're in that lull before the holidays really come. You have some people traveling, but we have a lot of crew. We don't want to lay those crew off. So we just deadhead them around the system, and that's portions of their trips, which is kind of nice, by the way, because obviously we have some extra pilots around, extra flight attendants around. But yes, when you start to look back in the cabin and you see more and more deadheading crew members, more pilots, more flight attendants, particularly in uniform, that's an indication that flights somewhere down line are being impacted, which they were impacted. I know on our flight last night back to O'Hare, I think we had 9 crew members. And we might have a deadheading crew, 1 captain, 1 first officer, maybe 1 crew of 5 flight attendants with us. But there were 9 different pilots that were trying to get home. That tells me, that their flights were disrupted across the system someplace. They got them to the hub, which is crucial. And now we're taking them from hub up to hub, and getting them back to base for contractual obligations. So that's a good observation, but that's how you can tell that the system is being impacted.
Airline Captain Scott Becker is on the line with us here on Wisconsin's Morning News. Do you like having those other pilots on board, Captain, or are you like, hey, well, I'm going to show these guys a good ride? Well, think about a barrel roll in there or something.
Yeah. No, they sit back there. They put pressure.
This is how we roll on
and
Captain
then
Becker's ship.
A little bumpy, and then they let you know, hey, Cap, what happened on that one?
They're back there taking notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, last question for you. Asking for a friend who might have a couple of daughters on the East Coast in different places and really hoping they make their flights for Thanksgiving home. How quickly, like, say the government reopens Monday, Congress figures it out, they get a deal, okay, everybody back to work, everything's fine. Like, how much of a lag will there be before, you and others can return to sort of any level of normalcy in the skies?
Right. That one's a tough one for me to answer, Vince. I know this. By Thanksgiving, absolutely everything will be absorbed. Everything will be back to normal. I think, like all of us, we are hoping, putting the flying aside, I think all of us are hoping, listen, a little bit of added pressure to Washington. Let's get something passed here, some type of continuing resolution so we can all get back to normal here. And I'm an optimist, so I think that's going to happen earlier than later. I say that with a big asterisk next to it because I know there's a lot of frustrated people out there. But I think as of right now, the delays, this is a very surgical approach that the FAA is using. And so I think the airlines, quite frankly, this is happening in this lull period, a lot of crews, a lot of airplane spares, a lot of things ready to go. So I honestly believe that once the decision is made, I think it's going to snap back pretty quickly. And the airlines, like I said, are ready for this.
Captain Scott joining us on Wisconsin's Morning News. Appreciate you, sir.
Okay, my friends. You guys take care and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon.